So today I thought I would try something a little bit different. I'm outside in my backyard. You may hear a little bit of noise. I live in California, not too far from the Rose Bowl. So today is some big musical event. I don't know what it is. But anyway, you might hear a few helicopters going overhead or some police cars, but just ignore that. So what I wanted to talk about today, this is another one focused towards actors, new actors, and also actors who've been around for a while. I've had some experiences on set as a director, as an actor, but as an actor, it really doesn't affect me that much. It kind of does, especially if the person is a scene partner and they're kind of edgy and they want to direct. They want to take over the project. I've been in that position before too. I just kind of stay out of it. I let the director handle it. That's my policy overall. You know, I've been a long time actor and I do act in small budget projects from time to time, just to keep sharp and, you know, if it's a role that I never had before, something that's going to be good on my resume. But anyway, sometimes you get put in situations where you see people making mistakes or you see people doing things wrong. And I hate to be the person, the Mr. Know-it-all who comes on the set and tries to tell everyone what to do. I'll tell you guys what to do here because you're watching my channel, and I'll give you my true opinion. And take it or leave it. If it's something that just take what's good for you and leave what's not good for you. That's what I mean by take it or leave it. Sometimes I'll give out good advice that fits you, and sometimes I may give out advice that doesn't fit your type or your character or your personality. But anyway, today, what I want to talk about, I have my notes here, so I'm going to peek down at them. I want to talk about actors, new actors and longtime actors, taking direction, and in parentheses, not crying about it. Sometimes as an actor, if you have a lot of experience, you'll come to the set and you'll have your character already developed. Your character is ready to go. You know what you want to do. You have your plan. You know, you've built a backstory. You've built where the character went to school, who his parents are, who his brothers and sisters are, his relationship to the fellow actors in the movie. So he has you have all that information that you're supposed to do as an actor already developed and ready to go. And all you need to do is hear the word action and you can start. But you have to remember, you have a director and you signed on to the project. And the director has a vision also. And hopefully the director has shared his vision for the character with you, but a lot of times you don't get that, especially in big productions. I'm a long-time character actor, and a lot of times I show up, that's the first time I met the director. That's the first time the director's met me, because a lot of times in television, the director isn't the person casting the role. They will be involved with casting the principals and whoever the lead characters are, but the small characters, the day players, even sometimes the players that are there for a week, the casting person decides it, maybe the producer decides. The director may not even be involved with that. He or she, they stay in their lane, especially in a television production, because it's set up the way it goes. The director, when the actor shows up, you get introduced to the director by probably the AD. And if the director wants to give you some specific information, then usually that's when they'll do it. But a lot of times the director just expects you as an actor to come prepared. But like I said, you do all that back work on your own, on your own time. And then when you arrive at the set, the director may have something else he wants you to do. He may totally change the type of character you've developed, that you created. And it's going to be hard, but you have to listen to the director and take their advice. That's one thing you have to get into your mind, that I may do all this preparation, but when I get on the set, the director may have something else that he wants me to do. So you have to be open. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to take direction and not complain. Let me go into my list because there's a lot of stuff I want to carry here before I go into my storytelling. It says, you're a collaborator. Your job is to deliver a perfect performance on the first try. It's to mold your performance with the director's vision. So you're not a statue, you're not a mannequin. You are a collaborator. You bring your vision for the role and you deliver that. And then if once the director sees it, he'll say, yeah, that's good. Or no, I didn't see him like this. He's very arrogant. He's very combative. He's very this, he's very that. You know, or if you come out the gate, combative, powerful, demanding, they may say, take it down a bit. Because a lot of times you might not have even read the whole script. There may be new versions of the script. Or it just may be the director's portrayal of how he saw your character in his mind. So take that advice and implement it. Go with it. don't fight. Please don't fight. Let me go on because I'm itching to tell one of my stories. So I'm going to go through my list first, and I'm going to tell my big story about an actor that would not bend. Let's see. Flexibility is your superpower. Directors love actors who can pivot, show they can adjust quickly, and you'll get hired again. So that's another thing at auditions. As a director myself, and I've cast a lot of projects, sometimes when I'm really interested in an actor and his performance is dead on, it's exactly what I wanted to see, I will throw him a curveball at the audition. I will say, I loved it, that was great, but try it this way. And I'll give him something that's totally different than what he or she did. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to see if they're going to argue with me. I want to see if they're going to start explaining the character's history and the character's background and why the character does this and why the character wouldn't do what I'm saying. That's what I'm looking for. And if I see that, next. So don't be the person that argues with the director. Maybe one day you'll be in that director's seat, or put yourself in that director's seat. I give information about that. But when someone gets in the director's seat and they have a vision for the character, they have a vision for the project, don't argue with them. If you're so conflicted and this is totally different than what you want to do, or they're asking you to do stuff that you're not comfortable with, then you say thank you, but this is not the role for me, and you exit. Don't argue with the director. Do not. Let me go on to the next one. Again, I'm itching to tell my story, but I will get to it. So flexibility. Now we're going to go on to don't defend, just do it. Resist the urge to explain your choices. Try the note first. Even if you don't agree with it, your face can argue later in the car. That's a funny line. Yeah, so even if you don't agree, keep it to yourself. Do what you were hired to do. Deliver the role the way the director wants you to deliver it, even if you totally disagree with it. And I said, if they're asking you to do something that's inappropriate, something that is against, for the Nats, something that's inappropriate, then you don't do it. Then you tell them, you kindly, pleasantly step aside, But don't get there and start arguing over every little point or any points. If they give you a note, you as an actor, just like a coach on a football or basketball or baseball, you're not there to argue with the coach. You're there to deliver the performance that the coach or the director or the theater director or the film director or the music video director that they hired you to do. And some days they may change your plan, but your job is to deliver it the way they want it. In the future, if you're a big star, then you can ask the director to step aside and you and him or her discuss it, But do not get on the set and start arguing with the director. If you're doing a student film, if you're doing an independent film, if you're volunteering, don't go there and start arguing. So that's the worst thing that you can do. You'll never be back on that set again. And who knows, that director next year may be directing major feature films. Things like that happen all the time. There's thousands of stories. Let's see. Ask questions. Okay, here it is. If the note isn't clear or you need clarification, should I go bigger emotionally, or should I be just louder, or should I show enragement, or should I show resistance? So if you really don't understand the new direction that the director is giving you, just calmly ask them, or if the director is busy, ask the production assistant. And if you have that time, ask them what they want if it's not clear. No matter where you are, if you're on the set and you're doing something and you don't understand what that note is, ask. That's happened to me in the past. The director wanted something, and a lot of times the directors may not know how to, they may not know how to explain themselves to the actor. And that happened to me in a situation where the director wanted me to deliver lines a certain way, and I was trying to give him what he wanted, but he wasn't clear. He was not clear. He didn't articulate what he wanted me to do. That's actually, now that I say it out loud, it's happened to me a number of times. And then I have to stop. I say, excuse me, I'm not understanding what you want. Please, tell me clearly what you want. And you do it in a nice way. You don't have to be nasty about it. And if you don't really understand and they're not explaining it, you don't have to tell them that they're not explaining it right. You just ask them to explain it to you differently so that you can understand. So that's what I had to do a couple of times when I'm in a role and they want me to do something different, but they just don't know how to explain it, And the last ditch effort is if you can't understand it, they can't explain it. You have to ask them, tell me what you want, say it the way you want me to say it. They don't like that because they're put in the position of trying to be an actor. But if you don't understand and they can't explain it, then you have no choice but to ask for some kind of clarification so you two can understand each other. Let's see. It says here, ask smart questions. If a note isn't clear, that's what I just did, sorry. The next one is cry later, adjust now. So if you don't really like what they want you to do, and it's a good role and you want to keep it, you don't want to walk away, you don't want to be a pain in the neck, do it. Just do it the way they want. Just do it the way they want, and then worry about it later. Don't get into a big argument on the set. I can't do it this way. I don't want to do it that way. That's not right. That's unprofessional. That is completely unprofessional. So do not argue with the director on the set. If you're going to be back another day, then you can talk to them. If they will step aside with you. Sometimes they won't, but if they will, you can step aside and they can explain it to you. But don't get into a big argument with the director on the set about you don't like the way the role is being portrayed. That's not the time for that. That's not the time for it. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. And again, I apologize. I'm getting swarmed by gnats out here. I didn't realize it. Let's see. So if you get a note that says they want you to make an adjustment, it doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. It just means that they want you to do it differently. They want you to do it a different way. But again, sometimes they may not articulate it. I remember one time I did an episode of oh God, I can't remember the name of the show, but it was a series out here. Anyway, I did an episode of this series, and there was a way I delivered a line during the audition that they loved. Everybody in the room, it was probably like 10 or 15 people in the room deciding who was going to do this role. And so they loved my audition. They broke up laughing the way I delivered that line. But then for some reason on the set, it was one last ending tagline, and the director wanted me to do it a different way, but he couldn't explain it. I guess he didn't know how to explain it, but he just kept asking me to do it over again. He wasn't giving me any direction, and this was in front of everybody, the whole production team, everybody there. I did it like 10 times, the one last line, and I don't know what he wanted. Still to this day, sitting here right now. Criminal Minds, that was a show. And I was playing a doctor. An examiner, examining the body. And I had a bunch of good lines and everything went smooth, I thought. But then that very last line, he wanted me to keep doing it over and over and over again. So I did it. But he wasn't giving me any direction about saying, try it this way, try it that way, try it this way. He just said, try it again, try it again. And so every time I delivered the line, I think in my mind now, I was probably basically delivering it the way I had planned to deliver it, because he wasn't giving me any direction on how he wanted it delivered. So that's just a situation you may get into, and it happened to me. I've been an actor for over 35 years, and sometimes you get into that situation where the director's not explaining himself, you don't know what he wants, so you're giving him the best you can. You're giving him what you can. And hindsight is, what is that saying? Hindsight is 20/20. Now I should have realized if I wasn't under that pressure, I probably should have delivered each line differently. And, but whatever, that's what happens sometimes. If they can't explain it, I should have stopped and said, oh, excuse me, sir, how do you want me to do this? How do you want me to say that line? So that's what I should have done. And that's what I want you to do. Take that moment. If you're not giving them what they want and they're not explaining what they want, then you need to ask. That can be done at an audition. And sometimes, unfortunately, like happened in my situation, that had to be done on the set, which I failed to do. But you should stop and say, okay, I want to do what you want. What is it? What do you want me to do? I can do it, in a positive way. I think that's what I did at the audition. They gave me a direction at the audition, and they wanted it to be, more sarcastic or condescending. I can't remember. And then I told them, I said, okay, yeah, I got something for you. And then I did it really condescending. I think that's what it was. And they loved it. The whole room broke up, and I got the role. But then on the set, he wanted something different. And I guess I was stuck in that way I was saying it. But don't let that happen to you. Let that be a lesson for you. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to change. If they're not giving you direction and they're just saying, we don't like it, give me something else. Or not even saying that. I mean, my director didn't say that. He just kept saying, do it again, try it again. And he was primarily an actor, so he wasn't a director per se. But that's a situation you don't want to get in. And I would say next time, if I ever got into a situation like that, I would give variations. You know, I have to put my director's hat on in that moment and say, okay, this guy doesn't know what he wants. Let me give him some stuff to choose from. That's what I did wrong. So I can't really put that on him. I, as an actor, should have had that prepared in my mind to give variations on that line, because I could have done that line 100 ways. But I think I was stuck because I was right there on the set. Everybody was there, they were watching. It was the very last line of it was the very last hook of the scene, and I just got stuck. Honestly, I just got stuck, and I kept doing it the same way. But anyway, don't let that happen to you. Let's see what the next one on here is. Practice taking cold notes. In an acting class or rehearsal, ask for random adjustments just to build your muscle. Cold reading with hot notes are the norm. So yes, that's so true. You may get audition sides in advance. You may do a self-tape. They love your self-tape. They call you in for an audition. I'm looking to see if I'm still rolling, yes. They'll call you in for an audition, and then when you get there, oh, we got a new script. Here it is. Take 5 minutes and look at it and then come on in. So that happens. That happens a lot. I mean, the last in-person audition I was on was for a commercial, and that's exactly what happened. I had the commercial for 2 days or 3 days, and then when I got there, signed in on the sign-in sheet, it was a callback, and the next thing I know, oh, here, we changed the dialogue, here's your new scene. And it wasn't half as good as what was originally written. Sometimes they'll write stuff that's really good, that's really catchy, that's really edgy, but then they get scared off, and they want to do something a little more tame. Maybe they pass it up the line to producers and they said, oh no, we can't say that, or we can't do this. And that's happened to me a lot too. So you'll get there and you'll be all ready to deliver the lines the way it was written. You got it down, you know it, you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden, boom, read it this way. Boom, here's the new script. Boom, here's the new dialogue. And you have to be able to adapt. So you can practice that. You can practice that with actor friends. You know, you can get them to give you direction. That's something, you don't know what they're gonna say, and they give you direction, and you adapt to it. That is a skill for an auditioning. That's a skill you need to build. That's a muscle you need to build. That's something as an actor you have to have if you want to get hired. As you rise up in the world of acting, that stuff won't happen anymore. But most actors have to deal with that. That's what you do as an actor. You adapt. And that's the fun part about being an actor too. You get to play these characters. You get to do things differently than you would do in normal life. You get to be free. There's no restraints on you on how you deliver a line. There's no restraints on you on how you play a character. So think of your choices and be able to use them and be flexible and be ready to take changes. Okay, I think I have one more on here before I get to my story. Treat notes like improv. Accept, build, and keep going. Resilience kills momentum. Flow keeps the camera rolling. So what they're saying there basically is to build up your improv skills. In an improv class, an actor may say something and then you have to react. And you just heard it. The actor may have just thought of it. So that's improv. Your improvisation. You're improving the role. You're improving your delivery. And you need to have that skill. Let me take a sip of water, sip real quick. Excuse me. Good. So you need to build up those improv skills. You need to be ready. You need to be on your toes because you never know when something's going to change. So have that in your mind. Don't go in there thinking everything is going to be exactly as the script they've given me and I've been working on it for. If you're lucky enough, you've been working on it for a week, you got those lines down cold. You know those lines. You know your beats. You know your character. You know his backstory. You know her backstory. And you're ready to go. You're hyped up. And then all of a sudden, boom, new script. So that happens. Expect it. Expect the unexpected. Now, what I'll tell you in closing, tell you my little story. I was directing a film, New York City, with my partner, Joshua Nelson. He was a producer. I think he was acting in this one also. So Joshua had hired this talented actor. He was pretty talented. He had a great look. He looked the role. It was just a one day, small part. He was a janitor in the bathroom, and he was supposed to get killed by the lead character. It was a film we did called Addiction, and he was supposed to get killed by the lead character. And so it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know if we had him waiting around a long time. Normally what we tried to do, we tried to be really professional. We tried to give people staggered call times. So he might have been there a while, or he might have not. But anyway, we got into the bath. It was a big office building downtown in Manhattan that Joshua had secured for us, a fabulous location. And so we were in this really nice bathroom where we're doing the scene where the bad guy comes in and he sees the janitor in there mopping up. They exchange a few words, and then the bad guy stabs the janitor, and he kills him. So the I laugh now, but I was burning up. I was burning up on the set because the actor who's playing the janitor, who was doing one scene, had maybe 3 lines, and then was supposed to be killed, started telling me that his character would not die like that. He wouldn't die that easy. He would put up a fight. He said, I know so-and-so self-defense techniques, and that's what I would do. And I said, wait a minute, sir. This is not you. This is a character in our film that we wrote that dies. He gets murdered by the killer. It's part of the story. But he just kept on saying it. He just kept on saying that what he wouldn't do, and that couldn't happen, and that's unrealistic. And what I wanted to do right there on the set, but I don't like to be nasty to anyone. I don't like to be nasty to anyone. I said, I told him, I said, look, can you please just do the scene? But, and I can't even remember, it was so long ago. I can't even remember exactly what I said, but ultimately I had to talk with him and convince him that I understand that you have these skills and that you would use these skills and that you would be able to defend yourself from this knife-wielding maniac with no problem. I said, but you have to realize this is for our script. This is what we've written. This is the script we gave you. Can you please just do it this way? And you know what? I can't even remember what happened. But what I think I did was I convinced him to just sit down on the toilet seat like if he'd been stabbed and we put blood on him. So I didn't show the struggle. What I did was I flipped it around. I showed the point of view of the killer killing somebody, and then as the killer walked out the bathroom, we saw the remains of what happened. So, you know, I had to think on my feet. I don't know what personal problems people have. You know, you don't know what's going on in someone's mind, and you don't want to continue to pressure them. If they're going to continue to disagree, sometimes the director has to give in. My first thought was just to cut that whole scene, because I could have done that also. I could have just cut the whole scene and have the killer walk in and we hear what happens off camera. So, you know, and then we see remnants of blood on the floor. But I think I did get him to sit, after some convincing, get him just to sit there. There was no struggle. And I told him, okay, we'll do it this way, where the killer will come in, we'll see him do his bit, like if he's killing somebody from the victim's point of view. That's what I did. I shot it from the victim's point of view. And we ended up using it that way. I think that's what I did. But all I can remember vividly, I didn't forget this, was that this guy, and he was probably like my age, he's probably like my age I am now, older gentleman, and he just would not relent. He knew that his character should not die that way. He didn't say anything to us beforehand when we gave him the script. He had the script well in advance, and he saw how his character died. He saw what the scene was. He could have easily called us up, but he was smart enough not to do that. He thought he was going to get us into a bind, and then he would be able to have some elaborate fight scene. I guess that was his hope. But you don't do that. You do not do that as an actor. If this was a big union set, and they had the money to just swap him out instantly, you know. And I could have done something. If I wanted to be a bad guy, I could have just said, okay, thank you, you can go home. And I could have got one of my production assistants to be the victim with no dialogue. But I didn't want to do that. The guy had waited around all the time. You know, I'm an actor myself, and I know that, you know, sometimes people are troubled and you don't know it. And, you know, you don't know what somebody's struggles are. You know, like I said, he was an older man. Maybe he wanted to be an actor his whole life. Maybe he, you know, thought this was going to be his big break where he'd get a big fight scene. And, you know, I don't know. So, but I decided to shoot it a different way. But that's the story that really got to me. It was so late. Everybody was tired. We were ready to go home. We had one last scene to do. And then this guy wants to rewrite my script. So take that advice. Never do that. Never do that. Because if you're on a big project, he would have been out of there as soon as he resisted me. I wouldn't have had to tell him myself. I'd have had 2 or 3 PAs escort him off the set. And then we would have just got someone dressed in a different costume and had them the victim, or we could have just did a quick rewrite. All that's possible. It's fiction, as all of you know as actors. This is fiction, it's not real. And that's what you can't do as an actor, think this is real. What I would do in real life, what my cousin would have done, what my brother would have done, what my father would have done. None of that is relevant. You know, you're there to portray a character, a fictional character that is not you. You know, I wasn't asking them to do nothing unethical. I wasn't asking them to do anything that's inappropriate. So take that as a warning. Do not get on the set and argue with the director. You know, if you have the script in advance, and there's something in that script that you don't like, that you don't want to do. I'm not saying do anything that you don't want to do, men, women, anybody. If it's in the script, make that decision in advance, you know. I mean, sometimes things will come up at the end, they will change stuff at the last minute, but they have to tell you because they're going to shoot it. And don't be bullied, please don't be bullied. I know you work hard to get roles and things like that. You know, you have to make those decisions yourself. You have to make those final decisions yourself. But don't let someone bully you into doing something inappropriate or something unethical or something that's against your morals. So that's just me on my soapbox. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. But remember, when you're being redirected or you're given redirection or you're given a tip or the director just says at an audition, try it this way, try it that way, do it, give it a try. It's not saying that that's the way he's gonna want you to do it on set, and even if it is, if it's something that you can do and something that you want to do, take their advice and give them the performance they want. Give them the performance they want. Don't get stuck in your ways where, you know, this is the only way I can do it, you know. And sometimes the casting directors will do that too, because the worst thing for a casting director is to bring an actor to the director or the producers who's argumentative. So they may sometimes throw you a curveball. They may sometimes, and even now that I think about it, I'm saying it now, sometimes when I show up at auditions and the sides are different, they may be doing that to see if I'm gonna freak out, because it's their job on the line. If they keep bringing troublemaking actors to the director or producer, next time they won't be the casting director. It's just that simple. So they have a concern with how you act and your talent, number one, but then number two, how you react to criticism, or how you react to doing redirection, or how you react to saying different lines, you know, or cutting lines. That's another whole situation that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was on a film, and for some reason, the director decided to start chipping away at my lines. And I knew where that was going. I knew where it was going, because for some reason, she didn't want the character that I was playing. It was a character actor role, small, and it could easily have been cut. And ultimately, she kept chipping away at the lines, chipping away at the lines, chipping away at the lines, chipping away at the lines. And then, you know, I expected it. When the film came out, I was gone. So that happens. That is this business. And there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you play the game, and hopefully you'll get to the position where you're doing roles where they can't cut that much. But it's still frustrating, and it still hurts, I gotta be honest. You think you're in this movie, and then all of a sudden when the final cut comes out, they cut you out for no reason, you know. But that's the business. That's the business we're in, and if you're new, that's the business you have to realize you're getting into. You know, you could do everything right, and then they just decide it's running too long. What scene can we cut? Oh, that scene with the bus driver is not relevant. We don't need to hear him talk. Boom, you're gone. You know, all the work you did is out. You know, I still got paid, I still got credit, luckily. I still get residuals, but you want to be in it. You know, that's why you're doing it. You want to show up, do the role, have the role seen, and maybe put it on your acting resume. But those are the breaks, and I will see you on the next one.